Hello, BookTube, and Merry Christmas to you all. I'm trying a little experiment. I'm in what I used to refer to as down in puppy territory. Of course, I don't have a little puppy anymore. I have a 6-year-old dog who's down in puppy territory as little as she can be. She much prefers to be ensconced in pillows and blankets up on a couch or a bed. I think my little baby's getting a little old. But as you can see, there's the depths of Mordor behind me, the hutch here at Hyde Cottage. I'm down on the floor to do a kind of an impromptu shelf tour. I have been counting books all morning. It's been wonderful. I've been finally getting around to just taking out, I was going to say pen and paper, but really it's an iPad, and counting up books, print, paper, and ink books that are on shelves here at Hyde Cottage in an attempt to end the year with a pretty accurate estimate of how many of those I have. And I figured since I was doing that, I might as well take you through a shelf. It's Christmas Day. There isn't any mail. I'm increasingly disconnected from new releases anyway. So, if I'm going to talk to my imaginary BookTube friends, I'd better come up with, as the influencers say, content. So I thought I'd try this. I don't know how many of these will be repeats of earlier shelf tours. Theoretically, one of the things I would like to do on this channel in 2023 is a complete shelf tour. Once I've taken stock of everything that I have, I would like to start the year with, if anything happens in the new year, what I would like to do is start the year with a massive sale, then reorganize everything, tighten everything up, and then do a shelf tour of what remains and try to keep it either steady state or decreasing throughout the rest of the year. But what have we got here? What's first? Okay, this is William Dowling. This is Oliver Wendell Holmes in Paris, subtitled Medicine, Theology, and the Autocrat of the Breakfast Table. And that young man right there is the autocrat of the breakfast table. This is Oliver Wendell Holmes, Sr., not Junior, not the Supreme Court Justice. This is just a study of the time that he spent in Paris, the friendships that he made, the correspondence that he kept up. We have thousands and thousands of letters by him, and who knows how many archives are unexamined. No one's interested in Oliver Wendell Holmes anymore. Once upon a time, he was the most famous man in America, but no one's interested in him anymore. So I imagine that archives all over the world have been just left to molder without anyone bothering to consult them for the work that this book kept making me want, which was a brand new 1,000-page biography of Oliver Wendell Holmes. But this was terrific. I'm not meaning to slight it by saying that it only made me want things that don't exist. I also really appreciated it. It could have been more lively written, and it could have had more of an interest in the personalities, or maybe conveyed that interest a little better, but I still loved it, and I loved the supporting material. This author is very, very generous about further reading and thoughts on his bibliography instead of just giving you a bibliography. That's always wonderful when you see that. That is, as we've learned in 2022, a dying art. Then we have Lawrence Babbitt's. This is a Devil of a Whipping, the Battle of Cowpens from the American Revolution, a pivotal battle in its own way. It didn't take very long, but it was pivotal in turning the mental turn of the tide in the war in favor of the colonies, in favor of the underdog. And the battle itself is also fascinating, just on the ground, just on schematics on paper. If you were ever lucky enough to find yourself likewise ensconced in pillows and blankets up in the old house in Vermont, Mark Richardson and I will happily bore you to death about this one battle until you need more wine than even he can supply. Because it is fascinating in every way, not just the personalities that were involved. What have we got here next? Oh, okay. Here we have 4 things. 4 volumes by the same author. There are, I think, 5 in this series. I only have 4. The author is Mark Sullivan, a journalist named Mark Sullivan, and he did a series of books called Our Times that are amazing. They are a history of his time, but they are not what historians usually do when they give themselves the brief of writing history of their times. He goes into great detail about hat fashions, what songs were popular, the state of the roads, all sorts of minutiae that historians don't tend to do, and I love them. They are in ways far more numerous than the author intended. They are incredible time capsules. Here is the 20s, a nice Art Deco look there. I have the 20s in hardcover, and I have 1909 to 1914 in hardcover. These are the only two hardcovers of these things that I've ever seen. And let me show you. Can I show? Well, it'll be easier for me to show you. Yeah, it'll be easier for me to show you in the others because I also have two volumes in paperback. I have volume 1, The Turn of the Century, and volume 2, America Finding Herself. And these are okay, but oh, okay. There were 6 volumes. There were 6 volumes in the series. In addition to all the ones that we have, there's Turn of the Century, America Finding Herself, Pre-War America, The War Begins, Over Here, and the 20s. So I am missing 2, and I would like all of them in hardcover. And with dust jackets, that would be great. These 2 are hardcovers with dust jackets, which is lovely because usually in yard sales or library sales or whatever, if you're lucky enough to see these things at all, you see them with no dust jackets. Or you could go to the book barn in Niantic, Connecticut, where you are almost certain to find the paperbacks. I think that's where I found these. No, I found this one at the Brattle. But see, this is what I mean. Advertising artwork, poetry from the time period, tons and tons of pictures. What have we got here? Farm statistics. Just stuff that he had a wide-ranging, also editorial and magazine cartoons all throughout here, which is amazing. Sullivan had a wide-ranging curiosity. He's a bit of a jerk, but what journalist isn't? he had a wide-ranging curiosity, has a very engaging writing style, obviously, as what journalist doesn't, since they have to sing for their supper. And in addition to everything else, 2 of the 6 volumes are fantastic accounts to read of what it was like moment by moment during the end of Theodore Roosevelt's presidential administration, during the whole of the Taft administration, and during the changeover from Taft to Wilson. Volumes of history will tell you those things, will write about those changeovers, but they always write about those changeovers in hindsight, in the context of things that have already happened and whose historical significance we already know. And Sullivan doesn't write that way, and it brings all sorts of things, pushes lots of things out of proportion, brings lots of other things into proportion. Just amazing. Oh, okay, here's another volume from a long series. I have all of these in ebook, and I consult them often in ebook. I only have one lonely copy in hardcover. I found it with a dust jacket with a library plastic cover over it, so I grabbed it. This is Will Durant, of course. Will and Ariel Durant wrote a multi-volume history of human civilization. That's wonderful. It really is. It's called The Story of Civilization, and it's wonderful. It's a chestnut now. No one will ever bring it back into print, but you go to a library sale, a flea market, a used bookstore stall on the road, you're likely to find somebody cleaning out their attics and just getting rid of all of these. Volumes, whole sets, still crop up regularly in used bookstores. They are a mountain of erudition, and oh my, are they well written. Oh my, are they enjoyable. You could learn a lot from these books. And I have the 1 volume on the Renaissance with a dust jacket. You often see these things without dust jackets, or with ugly dust jackets, really, really dumb ones. This has a dust jacket, has a plastic covering, so I grabbed it. I'm, of course, deeply interested in the Italian Renaissance, but I should have more of them. Really, I should. And in print too, because print volumes you can tip in reviews and essays. You can I don't know, maybe there isn't really a good justification for having a whole shelf of Will Durant when I have the ebooks. Maybe there isn't. Okay, here we go back to the Italian Renaissance. We're staying with the Italian Renaissance. This is Eugene Rice's book, St. Jerome in the Renaissance. Jerome was a pivotal intellectual figure, believe it or not. You think of the Renaissance, you don't think about St. Jerome, but nevertheless, if any dead person could be said to have kicked off the whole event, it was St. Jerome. I think that St. Jerome is incredibly interesting, and I found a trade paperback copy of this book, I believe, at the Brattle. And even at the time, I'm pretty sure I hauled it on this channel, and even at the time I thought, well, this is so fascinating, I'm going to go back to this so often, that a trade paperback is simply not going to survive. And then no time at all later, I found the hardcover with a dust jacket, so I grabbed it happily. Then we have 3 books by the same person, Perry Miller, great New England historian. I found a matching set of his, so I grabbed them all. There are more out there. I found the 2 most popular of his, the 2 most important popular works that he did. He wrote all about New England. Here's one, From Colony to Province. And then the two most important ones, the New England Mind, which is incredible. The 17th century volume is incredible. And what is probably his masterpiece, Errand into the Wilderness. I was very, very happy to find these all in a set. Did I find these at Prattle as well? Assuming that I did. Yes. Then a fairly new release. Do we have a sheet in here? Yes, we do. When did this come out? We've been talking to each other. This was in 2021. This was about 2 years ago, exactly, because this was late December in 2021. This is by Paul Delandis, and it is The Culture of Male Beauty in Britain. From the first photographs to David Beckham. it's heavily illustrated, and it studies what the changing nature of male beauty over the course of about 3/4 of a century. And it's really, really good. It's one of the few 2021 books that I actually kept. There are new books scattered throughout here, like this one. This was from this year. No, this was from November of last year. This was really, really good. This is Robert Gross's book, The Transcendentalists and Their World. Beautiful thing from FSG that looks not only at the typical headline stealing transcendentalist, but the whole broader picture. Just a wonderful, wonderful book. Okay. Well, I certainly got this at the Brattle. Yes. I guess most of these probably came from the Brattle. This is a lesser-known book by a once famous author. The author is Arthur Train, who wrote the Tut books, the Mr. Tut books, about the homely, homespun wisdom lawyer, Mr. Tut. And he also wrote a book, a history, called The Puritan's Progress, a history of the United States, up until, as you can see, just about the 1920s. Delightful stuff. I mean, this was just, like Sullivan, this was an author who couldn't write a boring word. And then we have another, we go straight from 1920s to the 2020s with another relatively new release. I don't even have a sheet inside this one, but I think this was 2021 as well. No, 2020. This is by Craig Furman. This is his great book, Author-in-Chief, a history of the writings of U.S. presidents. Not just the famous ones, the one or two famous ones that you might know, but all of them. Everything that he could find, and read through it all and talk about an engaging writer. Oh my. Let's see here. Okay, this next one is engagingly written. It is a classic. It's David Halberstam. It's The Best and the Brightest. There you have an original cover art of The Best and the Brightest, the guy in the rocking chair, of course, being President Kennedy. Then you have the whole bunch of his intellectual leading lights. This book gave a term into popular usage, into the cultural uses, The Best and the Brightest, now often used ironically, but also defined presidency. This is one of the best books on the Kennedy presidency. This next one, oh my, okay. All right, this next one has seen better days, but it has a good reason. This is Fiona Watson's book, Under the Hammer, Edward I and Scotland, where he waged incessant, treacherous war. And this is in pretty rough shape because it survived a fire. It's one of the only books I have that survived an old apartment of mine burning when I was out of town. So that the books that weren't burned or singed, there were a whole bunch of them that were, and they're not usable after that. Even if you can turn the pages, you'll never get rid of the smell. And it'll infect the other books. But not only that, but when the fire department got there, they blasted out the window of the front room and just blasted water into the apartment. I don't think they even cared if they knew what they were hitting. But what they were hitting was an entire wall of books. The water was just pounding against the books in a gigantic torrent for who knows how long. So when I got back, most of the books from that room were in a big sodden lump on the floor. Shoulder-high lump of sodden mass on the floor. And only a few books on the periphery survived and were readable and usable, and this was one of them. That's also very good. It's a very good study, military study of early England. Same as this one. This also is an early England study, also great, and also survived that flood. This is Frank McLean's book on 1066 in a UK trade paperback, a Pimlico trade paperback. 1066 has many, many studies. A couple of them are on this bookcase here, yes? Yeah, there's David Howarth's much slimmer book, 1066, The Year of the Conquest. But I like Frank McLean. I really enjoy his writing, so I have that one as opposed to a lot of others. What have we? Oh, okay. All right, we have a bunch of Bruce Catton. Never Call Retreat. I think this is the whole of his Centennial History of the War. Yeah? This Hallowed Ground is not. So I'm missing one volume in the Centennial History of the Civil War, because I also have Terrible Swift Sword. These show up. Even with Dust Jackets, these still show up at the Brattle. So I have 2 and 3, but this has 1 star on it. Is this not part of it? I swear I can never keep these things straight. I don't think so, though. I think that, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I only have these 3 volumes of Catton at the moment. I mean, I always mean to have more. I didn't account for the sitting, the sitting on the floor. I didn't account for that, and that's causing turmoil here. But we don't have far to go here. We just have 3 big fat books. First one is Duncan White's book, Cold Warriors, about writers during the Cold War. Isn't that great cover design? You have the spines of their books, the Kulag Archipelago. It's a tremendous. It's really just 3 or 6 long profiles of these writers. But boy, oh boy, I shouldn't say only, because the author does such a great job that you just want it to be longer. It's a big book, but you want it to be longer. Same thing with these next 2. I wanted them to be longer. Of course I did for this one. This is, who wrote this? Mark Peterson. Sorry, I didn't count for the sitting on the floor. I'll have to, I know I would put pads of pillows down here. This is his book on Boston, the city-state of Boston, which I loved. I read it when I got the advanced copy. I read it when I got the finished copy. I think I am blurbed on the paperback. This is just tremendous. It immediately took its place as, it's a big book, but I immediately took its place as a history of Boston that I could hand to people when people ask me, what's a good history of Boston? Ordinarily, I would hand them Walter Muir Whitehill's book, Boston, A Topographical History, which, even though it's a history of buildings, it very much doubles as a history of Boston and is really good. And there are a couple of others, depending on how deep the person's interest in. This would go to, a history fan who wants the history of Boston from certain years. This is from 1630 to 1865, so from the founding of the city to the end of the American Civil War. After which point, New York started to outstrip Boston in its position as a key shipping node or naval station or whatnot. New York began to outstrip Boston, and Boston started to become resentful of that fact. It's a terrific history of Boston. And then we have this last one, which is good, because all the southern parts are refusing to report in. This is by Michael Massing, another big fat book. This is Fatal Discord. This is the book that I waited for forever and ever, a big study of the slow building and then world captivating fight between Martin Luther and Erasmus over the nature and the fate of Christianity. It's a fantastic story, and I've been railing for decades that somebody ought to write it for the modern audience, and Michael Massing does just terrifically. This was so good. So there you go. An impromptu little shelf tour down here in what used to be puppy territory. It's not puppy territory anymore. She's right over there. Hi, baby. You want to come over here and say hi to people? Huh? Come here, baby. Come here and say hi to your fans. Yes? Oh, there you go. There you are. They're all over here. Ooh. She still spends time down here, but she isn't getting lost or getting into trouble down here the way she did when she was the size of a squirrel. So there you go. That is our video for today. As I go through my books and count them and dream of sugar plum fairies, because when I'm counting them thinking about decreasing the size of this collection. I'm always thinking about that now when I'm counting them. And I think they know it. I think they sense it. But if I'm counting a book, if I'm counting a print physical book that I haven't opened or read or taken down off a shelf in 2 or 3 years, then I'm not putting it back on the shelf when I'm done counting it. I don't want any dead weight among my printed books. They take up too much space. They put too much stress on the floor. They are wasteful. Especially if I have an ebook copy of them. Of the books that I just showed you, I probably have ebooks of half of them. But anyway, those would be a diatribe about ebooks. So there you go. That is a little shelf tour uh, on a Christmas day. A bright, sunny, clear Christmas day without a single care in the world. No editors tapping their watches. No click, click, click at the door. No, nothing like that. Nothing at all. For today only. Nothing like that. The next week starts up right away. It's the last week. Plenty of people still off, but plenty of people else trying to clean up their week, trying to clean up their year and plan for the next year. I don't know how much of that I'll be doing, but today, no. No one expects anything of you today. I'm hoping that's true of all of you as well. I hope you're having a wonderful, low stress, low obligation Christmas day where you get to just loll around and relax because you've earned it. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you.